allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you, Kim. Thank you all for attending our first Zoom planning board meeting. First thing on the agenda tonight is the Carmel Fire Department lot line adjustment. Mike, comments, please?
Sure. The applicant proposes to remove the rear 6.32 acres from the bank property and add it to the Carmel Fire Department property. Question is, what is the purpose of the lot line adjustment? Variance is required for the MSB bank property. Lot area is 40,000 is required. They'll have 24,052 square feet existing, so 15,948 square foot variance is required. Variance is also required for the lot line adjustment law. It only allows a lot line adjustment can only be used. It can't create a substandard lot, which you are, and the decrease cannot be 20% or 20,000 square feet of the total area. So they're going to need the variance from that also.
Thank you, Mike. Rich?
This is a lot line adjustment, so the engineering department does not have any comments regarding the adjustments being proposed.
Thank you, Rich. Pat?
Mike touched on the primary issue, which is the purpose of the lot line adjustment and why the property is being transferred. As Mike noted, there are two variances that are necessary. It should be noted that the bank building will remain dimensionally compliant with respect to setbacks, even though the back portion of the property is being removed. There is a new easement that's proposed to allow bank property access across the fire department out to Vink. So that new easement will require Joe to take a look at that. And there's also an existing easement on the property, and it's not clear if the ownership change would affect the easement in one way or another. So Joe should take a look at that as well. That's all I've got, Mr. Chairman.
Kathleen, you want to explain to us why you're looking to do this?
Absolutely. Is this an appropriate time to share my screen to bring up the plan?
Sure, please do. Oh, nice, well done, thank you.
Wonderful. So as previously mentioned, it's 0.63 acres that is looking to be conveyed from the bank parcel to Carmel Fire Department, and that's parcel X. And what this does is it allows, and you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, the property line division. It allows the Carmel Fire Department to have some additional acreage on the back. This is part of a future development plan. This application was originally submitted in February. The intent at that time was to start this process, get potential variances, and then submit a site plan application subsequent to that. Obviously, there's been a lot going on and the timeline's a little different. So the board will be receiving the site plan application. It was submitted today. So you should be receiving digital copies from that soon, which will allow the project to make a little more sense as to the intent of the site plan development. But basically,
Kathleen, I just want to confirm that that was received today. Rose has a copy and I have a copy of it, and we'll be reviewing the application package. Completeness, and then we'll be presenting it to the board to see what next agenda it can get, when it can get on another agenda.
So can I ask if the site plan development will outline what your future plans are for this space?
correct. But the general idea is that they are adding an addition to the east side, to the left side of the sheet for the fire department, and it will be the apparatus bays. So at the moment, the current bays are an old redevelopment of a supermarket. And based on the height that's allowable in that area, the fire trucks, this was originally developed in the 1990s, was the last time it was renovated. And since then, the fire trucks are just bigger, they're higher, so there's conflict with clearing space. There's no available area for decon, which is now a fire code requirement. So the addition of apparatus bays would allow the fire department to be up to safety and to code issues. And then as part of that, we would reconfigure the circulation, the vehicular circulation, and relocate the site amenities. So the focus of the easements that we're presenting, and I have 2 exhibits after this, which will outline the easements in a little more clarity. Those are to assist in the reconfiguration of the vehicular circulation due to the addition.
Okay.
So at the moment, there are 4 existing easements on site. The red is the sewer easement in favor of the town. That's the town sewer line that goes through both the TD Bank parcel and the Carmel Fire Department parcel. The yellow is a sewer easement in favor of the ambulance corps, which is located to the right of the sheet to the east. That allows them to connect into the town sewer line. The blue is an access easement in favor of TD Bank, and that allows them to use the driveway that exits out the rear of their property and allows them to connect to Vink Drive. And then the orange is another access easement, which just accommodates for the little bit of parking and the drive that goes over the property line into Carmel Fire Department. All the easements will remain intact except for the blue. The blue easement will be extinguished because it is no longer necessary due to the proposed new easements. So there are 3 proposed new easements. The teal is again an access easement. It will be in favor of the bank parcel. The purple is on the ambulance corps property. That's in favor of both TD Bank and the ambulance corps. And that allows a connection now from the TD Bank parcel through the teal and through the orange. There's already a potential location for the driveway. This has already been coordinated with TD Bank, with the ambulance corps. We've staked it out in the field. They've been able to review it, and we've been able to come to an agreement on the location and the easement. And then the green is a utility easement in favor of TD Bank. Obviously, because this is their property, there are several utility lines running through the rear of the property, including what we believe the sewer easement and the sewer line, several electrical lines. This just gives the TD Bank parcel the protection that they can repair, maintain, and update anything that they need to from a utility perspective that serves their parcel.
Thank you, Kathleen. Thanks
Kathleen,
for that.
you
Go ahead,
mentioned
Rich.
that all the easements are staying the same, so the sewer easement is going to stay, correct?
Correct.
Sorry about that, Mr. Chairman.
No, thank you. Questions from the board? So one of the concerns I have, and believe me, I'm fully supportive of our local fire departments. One of the concerns I have is what we do to that TD Bank property. Obviously it'd be non-conforming. It'll be a very small piece of commercial property. The town lacks commercial business. So I have those concerns, obviously. Kathleen, do you know if the fire department has thought of or would even be interested in, or if TD Bank would even be interested if they were to? I personally would rather see TD Bank own the entire lot, own the firehouse, own the entire lot, and lease space or rent space to the fire department than chop up this lot and to have a large lot and a non-conforming lot that I'm not sure what could be used for in the future if TD Bank closes, relocates, et cetera, moves to a larger facility somewhere else.
I do not know if they've had those discussions, but I'm happy to reach out to our attorney who's been assisting them through this communication with the TD Bank parcel to see if that's been discussed at all.
And again, I'm just concerned with that bank, that's going to be a small piece of commercial property for the bank. Thoughts from the planning board?
Currently, the 2 lots are conforming, correct?
Correct.
Mike, okay. And
There
as-
is one pre-existing non-conforming condition, which is the relationship of the setback from the Carmel Fire Department to the side lot line on the north. That is non-conforming, pre-existing non-conforming, and I'm making sure. And the minimum lot width for both the parcels are also pre-existing non-conforming. So they don't meet the 200-foot, they're long linear parcels. They do not meet the 200-foot minimum lot width. And the TD Bank parcel is pre-existing non-conforming, and that it's a small building. It doesn't meet the minimum building footprint that's required.
Okay, thank you. So from a planning standpoint, we're really taking lots that have conformity issues and going into the opposite direction and making them more non-conforming.
That's the problem. The parcel one, and I drove out there today, the fire department has 1.4 acres. Parcel two, the bank has 1.18, almost 1.2 acres. We're taking almost half of the bank's property and transferring it to the fire department, which creates a problem for the bank, for us, for the bank property.
Is there a foreseeable plan in the future for the firehouse if they were to acquire this property?
Yes, and that was delivered today, and the planning board will be able to review it.
Okay, can
Anthony,
I
just to be clear that the issue is not necessarily affecting the bank. The bank can continue to operate today. It's the potential of, if the bank, as Craig indicated, if the bank leaves and a new tenant were to come into that space, the site is now significantly non-conforming in that regard. So
correct?
it's
Okay.
an issue.
It's non-conforming in the minimum lot area at the
Right.
moment. Everything else is either pre-existing standpoint. We are not increasing non-conformity in setbacks or any of the other requirements.
Any other thoughts from anyone?
Kathleen, does that utility easement overlap with the proposed easement, the teal and the green?
Yes.
It does.
So what that easement, it allows, they'll be able to connect into the sewer line. Well, they'll be able to continue to connect into the sewer line, any maintenance, any repairs, anything they need for any of their utilities coming out of the rear of the property, they'll be able to still have access and maintain.
But yeah, Joe, we're talking about cross easements, so you've got to pay attention to the documents and how
Yeah,
that's created.
There's multiple ones there, so I'm gonna need to take a look at those.
So can I ask Rich and Mike and Pat, I brought up, without consulting with you, but I brought up that I think that from our perspective, I'm not even sure this is feasible, but if the fire department had the entire 2 lots, would that be something the town would prefer?
No. Oh, am I on? Yeah,
Yep.
I don't think that they would prefer it, because then it would be a commercial property on a tax exempt property.
Oh, so from a tax point of view, it'd be a hit on us, but from a planning or zoning point of view, it would be a plus because we were not creating a non-conforming lot.
Yeah, Craig, I guess the question could be, could the fire department lease the wooded portion of the TD Bank property instead of acquiring it? Maybe that's a potential, but I haven't seen the site plan, Kathleen, so I'm not sure what physical improvements would go there. If it's just a parking lot, for example, maybe that's a feasible option. But if it's physical building, that's probably not a realistic option.
Yeah. Look, Kathleen, I'm very interested. I'm sure the planning board's very interested in make this work for everybody. I'm just trying to do some due diligence here and try to make it work without creating a non-conformity.
When will the plan be available?
It was submitted today. As
Today.
soon as Rose is able to distribute it, everybody will have a copy.
Yeah, so Anthony, it needs to be reviewed for completeness. If we have any comments, we would send it back to the applicant in case we need to have additional information. If there is none, then Rose will make sure that she distributes it to the board. Then it'll be up to the board to determine when and if they want it on the next agenda or whatever agenda they would like it back on. But they can have it to review at any point in time once it's a completed application.
I see, thank you.
So,
I guess that would be the next step then, Mr. Chairman. That would be my opinion.
yeah, I think we need to hold it over until we can get a chance to review the site.
Maybe do them
Kathleen, that
together.
sound reasonable?
It does.
And if there's if you can inquire about, the properties, that'd be helpful also. And Mike, you bring up an excellent point about the taxes. All right, let's hold this over so we can all learn more about it, and hopefully we can work everything out.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you. Thank you. Next on the agenda is MK Realty. It's an extension for a final site plan approval. Dominic, would you let us know when we're ready?
Kathleen, is that one yours? No, I guess not. So it must be Zach's. Hi, Zach.
How we doing?
Hi, Zach.
How we doing, Greg?
Mike, no comments from you, I believe?
Yeah, I have no objection to the approval of this. I just think there's some new board members, so maybe they should be, given a little detail of what the project entails.
Thank you. Rich?
So we have no objection. The engineering department has no objection to approving the site plan extension for this project. The board should be aware that it does have New York City DEP stormwater pollution prevention plan approval, which expires in August of 2021, and subsurface treatment plant system, permit set to expire in March 29th, 2021. It does have coverage under the New York State DEC stormwater permit. It has a wetlands permit through the town of Carmel expiring on March 4th, 2021. It contains the requisite performance bond of $199,770 and inspection fee of $9,988, which was identified in April 11th of 2006. The bond was set to expire in 2018. I'm sorry I didn't catch up on that, but I'm sure it's been updated. So Zach, if you could check that for me. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I take that back. Sorry. We recommended that a new bond be provided because the costs were from 2006 to 2020. The new bond and engineering fee should be increased to $241,337 and $12,000 respectively. That's based on an escalation of about 21%, which is based on ENR, which is Engineering News and Record. So we recommend that the bond be updated because the last time it was like that was in 2006.
Thank you, Rich. And Pat, I believe you had no comments also, right?
No, but just to remind the board, this has a long history, and Zach can summarize that for you, but you reapproved this about a year ago. So it was approved, I think, 2006, 2008, something like that. You granted the reapproval about a year ago, and now this is an extension of the reapproval. So I think I agree with Mike. Zach can give us a little bit of background for some of the board members that weren't around back then.
I think both Pat and Mike have an excellent point. So Zach, would you please give us a little history on this project?
Sure, absolutely. Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. Zach Pearson with Insight Engineering, Landscape Architecture, and Surveying. This is a commercial lot on the corner of Route 6 and Old Route 6 in Carmel. Like Pat had said, the original site plan approval was granted in, I believe it was 2006. It's a single building with parking circulating around the building with associated stormwater, utility connections. We've, at the direction of the owner, we've kept all of the permits up to date. We have a DEP approval, SWIP approval, DEP sewer connection, state coverage. So the owner is actively trying to find someone to fill this space, and has been since the approval. It is it's a tighter site. It's a smaller commercial lot with access only off of Old Route 6. But he is actively looking for a user. And I know we've stated this at past meetings. Should he find a user that needs a different layout or setup, we would be back before the board for an amended site plan at that point. So our charge is to keep all of the permits active as he's marketing it to potentially find a user.
Thanks, Zach.
Yep.
Any questions from anyone on the board? And just a reminder that this is for an extension of the final site plan approval.
Yeah, I have a question. Is that my title list, Zach? I think I lost that.
Yeah.
Notice that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do we have a motion to grant an extension of site plan?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion for extension of final site plan. This is 6-month or a 1-year extension?
1 year.
1 year.
Make the motion and for a 1-year extension of final site plan approval.
I'll second the motion.
Kim seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
You have to do it by roll call, Craig, so we can record the vote.
Thank you.
Can't tell
Kim,
who's saying what.
I approve.
Bob,
Approve.
I also approve. Anthony made the motion. All four of us approve.
Okay. Got it.
Zach, thank you.
Great, thank you. I just have one question. The approval, will that be retro back to the date it was originally approved to, or will it go to this meeting date? I just had a-
It'll be retroactive to the date of the prior approval, Zach.
Got it. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Third on the agenda tonight is the VIP Wash and Lube, 118 Old Route 6 for a bond return.
Bringing Sergio in, guys.
Dominic, are we ready for this?
Yep, Sergio's coming on right now.
Okay. Hello, Sergio.
Good evening. How are you?
Good evening.
I'm sorry. Okay, now I see you. How are you?
Great, thank you. Great, thank you. Mike, any questions on this bond return for VIP Wash and Lube?
I have no comments on the bond return.
I realize Pat has no comments also. Rich,
Right.
comments, please?
So the applicant contacted the engineering department to request a field inspection earlier this year in February, and on March 11th to evaluate the current status of site construction for the purpose of determining whether a bond can be returned. The results showed that all the site plans, our inspections, so all site improvements required pursuant to the board site plan have been completed. There's a bond in amount of $134,000, which can be released, and we recommend that it be done. We're released, that is.
Does the planning board have any questions? If not, we can schedule a public hearing.
No questions from me.
I drove past today. It looked good.
None for me either.
So, Sergio, we'll get you on the next agenda for a public hearing.
Thank you so much. Have a great evening, Jen.
You too.
Have a great evening, Paul. Thank you.
Serge, before you leave, Sergio?
Yes.
So
Yes.
you'll be on the next meeting for a public hearing. If there's no comments, then the board votes on it. After the board votes on it, then it goes to the town board, and the town board, I have to present it, it's presented to the town board. They vote on it, and then you get your bond returned.
Okay. We don't have any time on this, considering everything that's going on.
I was just gonna ask
Anytime,
that.
like, you should be on the next agenda for a public hearing if we're holding public hearings, so that's up to, the town board. We're trying to figure out how to do public hearings on the grand scheme of things, so, right now you're on the next agenda, which is a month away. Well, hopefully we have it figured out by then.
Okay, Jen.
And then
Thank
you'll be on the subsequent. So the way it's kind of working right now is once a month is planning board, every other week is town board, which is a voting and a work session. So you get on a work session and the following week you'd be on a voting session. So it would be 2 weeks after whenever the public hearing is held and finalized, theoretically. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I know. It's just
Crazy
it would come-
times.
I know, crazy times. Well, thank you so much.
No problem.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
evening.
Thank you, Sergio. Stay safe.
Likewise to all. Stay safe, all. Bye-bye.
You too, sir.
Giordano Gervasi subdivision on Bullet Hole Road for a bond return.
All right, stand by, guys. I'm bringing John and Robin. There you go.
Hello, gentlemen. Mike, no comments, I believe?
No comments.
And I don't believe Pat had any comments on this either.
No
With
comments,
that
Mr.
being
Chairman.
said, Rich, your comments, please?
So the engineering department received a bond return request from the applicant. We performed a field inspection on March 9th of this year to evaluate the status. The original bond posted was $48,300 based on our inspection of July 2015. The site improvements required pursuant to the board's site plan approval were completed with the exception of paving of a common driveway. It was recommended in July of 2015 that the bond be reduced to $22,000 and that upon completion of the common driveway paving per the approved subdivision plan, the remainder of the bond can be returned. As the common driveway has not been paved, this department does not recommend that the bond be returned at this time.
Yeah, John, do you want to comment on that?
This is for Rob.
Oh, Rob, okay.
Oh, are you asking me now?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm Robert.
I see two names. I see John and Robert. I wasn't sure if you wanted to comment on this.
Okay, yes, I do. I do. I have my basis for this request is the fact that the Gervaises are not the parties responsible to have this bond posted. When they sold the property to Surge Inc., Surge made a representation in the contract that it would replace their performance bond with their own performance bond with the town at or prior to closing. With that having been said, with that having been represented, the Gervaises accepted that and they expected the return of their bond. I had an informal meeting with you, Joe, and Rich and Mike last year. The indication, at least informally, was that the opposition to the return would be the town would be left responsible, possibly with a legal liability to the owners if they returned a bond before the improvements were completed. Okay, having looked at the contract since that meeting and having had many false starts to get this case on the agenda, it is our position quite simply that if the town wants to have a bond, that's fine. The owner should have the bond. The Gervaises were entitled to the return of their bond upon the Surge Inc.'s assumption of title of the property. Surge Inc., whether or not Surge Inc. did, I don't know. I doubt they did because otherwise I wouldn't see the resistance. But the current owners have no greater rights than their transferors, than their predecessors in interest, Surge Inc. Now, I would like, I actually have a copy of the contract with that explicit provision in it. I'd like to share that with the members of the board. It's not like I can just hand up copies to you. So how do I, Dominic, don't you have to give me?
You'd have to share screen. Do you have it electronically?
I do.
If you could share screen on your own,
Is that more?
right at the very
Oh, share
bottom in the
screen.
middle.
Okay.
Just so I understand what you're saying, and before you share the contract with the board, you're saying that there was a provision within the contract that would replace the surety upon passing of title,
Absolutely.
and that never occurred.
Apparently, that was outside of the, that was a representation made by the purchaser to the sellers, which,
Okay. But was the town privy to that?
No.
I know I gave you a copy of this contract when you and I met last
Right,
year.
but the reason why I'm eliciting these questions is for my board's perspective. The town
Right.
wasn't privy to that, so the town's not bound by that. I've looked at this 9 ways till Sunday, and I am very sympathetic with the position that they're in, but I don't see how, until that common driveway has been completed and paved, the town can return the bond. And I happen to agree with the town engineer with respect to this matter.
It's not really a question of the town returning the bond or deeming it complete. It's the question of who the town holds responsible to file the bond.
Right, so now you would be placing the onus on the town to go out and try to get the purchaser of that lot to replace this surety, and that's not the town's responsibility.
It's not much of an onus since they're after a building permit and they're after all kinds of permits for their misdeeds in handling the property. You know, anyone who wants a permit has to comply with the town's requirements. This is one of them.
Yeah, and again, the idea was floated that maybe we would make a condition upon the certificate of occupancy being issued. And we discussed that, Mike, correct? And we determined that that was not a position that we wish to take.
That is correct.
Well, if it
So
was,
I understand, again, I understand his plight. I am absolutely sympathetic, but it should have been handled at or about the time that the property was transferred.
okay, it wasn't. And last year, your reasoning for not recommending it was that it would possibly expose the town to legal liability. This is
Well, not only that, but it's a requirement of the site plan of the subdivision approval.
but it's not a requirement that the Gervaises do it. It's a requirement that someone do it. Okay,
Right.
Somebody put their name in the I'll do that category when the deed was transferred from Mr. Giordano and Michelle Gervaisi to Surge Inc. Surge Inc. is the current owner's transfer and title. If there's any legal liability, it's the seller and the subsequent seller and the current owners.
But it's not incumbent upon the town to enforce that. It's not incumbent upon the town.
The town's not being
To
put in a position of enforcing it, though. The town's being put in a position of returning money that it doesn't have the right to hold. And if the current owners want to pursue their permits and their C of O, then they have to do just like anyone else does and get comply with the provisions of the building permit.
Yeah, I disagree with that.
Seems like if you just get the driveway paved, then there's no issue.
That's
Now,
correct.
who pays for that driveway is going to have to be worked out between the previous owner and the current owner. With all due respect, I don't see how the town can take any other action.
Anthony, I agree with you. I think it's between the two parties. I agree with what Joe said.
I mean, we can return the bond if the driveway gets paved. Who paves it, it has to be worked out between the two parties, not the town.
Well, my client's money should not be held hostage to the current owners, and there are several legal problems in connection with this property and otherwise.
But that initial agreement was made between your client and the new owner. So that's something that has to be hashed out.
And the prior owner, there was an owner in between.
Right.
Well,
Bob, you're on mute.
Sorry. Doesn't your client have the ability to enforce that contract that, it should have enforced prior to closing? Can it enforce it after closing?
my client's ability to do that, it may be barred by the statute of limitations. The contract is dated 06, yeah. Yes. No, that's the, that's time barred.
So, Mr. Chairman, my suggestion would be, and obviously you can continue the discussion, but there should be a motion either for return of the bond or opposed to the return of the bond, and then a roll call vote accordingly so that there's an official action by the planning board in connection with this application.
Right, that's basically what we're after tonight anyway, because it sort of expected what's going to happen.
Understood.
Okay, then, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion for the bond return.
Does
So
anyone
the motion
second
is
that?
to return the bond?
The motion is to return the bond, and we'll do a roll call vote, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Does anyone second that?
No takers.
Joe, do I need to ask for a motion to deny, or can I just take votes on who approves or denies?
Well, there's a motion on the table to accept, to return the bond. In order for there to be a roll call vote, there needs to be a second. So somebody can second the motion and then vote accordingly.
All right, I'll second the motion just to move it along.
Okay, so just so the planning board understands what the motion is, it's for the return of the bond. So you can either vote yes in favor of returning the bond or no, denying the return of the bond.
Kim, you're muted, but would you, I'd like to hear from you. Yeah, or nay,
I'm gonna go with yay,
to return the bond.
return the
Bob?
bond.
Nay.
Anthony,
No.
I vote no.
So the vote is 3-1, so the vote fails. And you have your action, Rob.
Okay, all right, well, thank you, and we'll be in further contact upon filing.
Okay.
Good luck, thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is Barone Mariano 32 Overlook Drive, a regrading application. Dominic, please let us know when you're ready.
Sure, give me 1 second. He's coming on right now.
Hello,
He's on.
Jack.
Evening. That's weird.
Yeah.
Which one we doing?
All right, we're on the Barone, the regrading application.
Okay.
I understand that Mike as well as Pat had no comments. With that being said, I'm going to ask you, Rich, to please read your comments.
So the application involves remedying a notice of violation issued by the town of Carmel in September of 2019. The applicant already had soils placed on the site. They have been tested, and the results are below New York State DEC threshold criteria. All engineering comments have been addressed based on the prior memo that was forwarded to the board.
I believe most of the planning board remembers this. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So the issue,
Before, wasn't this before the board, just before we broke due to the pandemic?
I believe so. I remember fairly recently. I'm not sure exactly how recent, but I remember that we asked Jack to go back and do some soil samples.
And Rich, you're saying we received those test results and they're below standard? Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
that they're acceptable, correct.
Oh, they are or are not
They
acceptable?
are acceptable, they're fine.
Okay, good.
So this
Thank
is,
you.
as we know, I think, we've talked about how do we educate the community, because we've had some bad experiences with people going ahead and doing regrading in particular, with soils that were not tested. And in one case, someone had to haul away plenty of soil because of that. That's a different issue actually for a later date, how we notify the community and the builders of such. Any comments on this application in front of you right now, the Barone Mariano regrading application? If not, we'll schedule a public hearing.
Can we waive the public hearing?
No, Jack,
We typically do not.
I have a hard time with that. I don't know about the neighbors in that area, and
Okay.
I heard Anthony speak up. I'm not in favor of.
When do we schedule it for?
We'll get you, we'll work with Rose, and given the current situation, we'll see as soon as we can get you on the agenda.
Okay. Okay.
And next and lastly on the agenda is Dune Holding, Mexico Lane. It's a reapproval of a final subdivision. And Mike, you had no comments?
I have comments.
Okay,
They came in late, so I had a little time
sorry.
getting it together. I apologize. You ready?
Please.
The developer decided to build the road and do the stuff instead of paying for the bond on the property. So he was trying to get a reduction in the number. And when they did that, we realized that the bond, I'm sorry, the site plan, the subdivision approval actually expired. The applicant's here right now for a re-grant with some changes and an extension of the approval because it ran out, I believe, 2 years ago, or it's 4 years ago. So this would push him up to the current date, and Rich will explain the specific changes that they found when they did the inspection.
Okay. And Pat, I don't believe you had any comments.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. No issues. This really has been Rich's baby for a while.
Yep. And Rich, last but not least, please talk to the board. Let us know what your view is here.
Well, I don't know if it's been my baby, Pat. It's just we've all been talking about it long enough,
We
and
have,
ad nauseum, so to speak, internally. So, and with Jack, no offense, Jack. So, this is an old project. So the project encompasses. I sent the board a fairly extensive memo earlier today to try to give you a background of it. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but the basis of it is it's a 30-acre parcel divided into 5 lots. This is a re-grant of approval that once the re-grant is approved, the applicant can request the extension. And once extended, the applicant can have the option to build or bond. Just so you know, when this came in front of us in 2016, as Mike mentioned, the applicant chose to build versus bond. There's a section in our code that calls for that. At that time, we had so it was, just so you know, it was back in 2008 that this was here in front of us. It's an open development from 2012. The original bond amount was $468,000 and the engineering fee of $23,400. The engineering fee was paid, but as we mentioned, the bond was not paid as the applicant decided to build versus bond. There was a resolution in, all right, so the resolution that was passed had that you had a maximum of 2 years. The performance bond, said improvements shall be completed with a maximum of 2 years, and the performance bond shall so state the same. The developer may apply to the planning board for an extension. This was in 2016 that this was originally passed. It was not requested for an extension in 18, so we moved from 18 to 20. So as Mike mentioned, we're 2 years off, even though it was 4 years ago. We've done a whole bunch of site visits on this site. There are missing pieces to the puzzle on it. The entryway was not in conformance with the approved subdivision drawing, and guide rails were needed, rain gardens were needed, grass creep per DEP was needed, retaining walls were not installed per the plan and SWIP. Top course was needed. So what the applicant has asked for is, hey, give me the re-grant, give me the reapproval, and I want my bond reduced. And so the bond that was $463,000 or 68. It's been recommended by myself here in the engineering department to recommend it to $106,000 because the work that needs to be done is about that amount with what needs to be completed. There are permits that are out there. They have a DEP stormwater permit that's good till 2022. They have a freshwater wetland permit for the state that expires at the end of this year. It has stormwater coverage. And according to the applicant, the town of Carmel wetland permit, they've done all the work in that area and they don't need it anymore. And they have to submit a stormwater control facility maintenance agreement. So I kind of bumbled all around on there, but you're gonna really have to read that memo to get a better sense of what's going on. So, and maybe Joe, Pat, or Mike can add anything in there before Jack comes in and, you know, gives his take on it. No offense, Jack.
That's twice you said. You know,
I don't think Jack's take is going to be different than yours, Rich.
No, I agree with that. I mean, nobody realized, he didn't realize that the permit had an the approval had an expiration. He did the work in accordance with the plan. There's some things that we're looking to change. In this case, in one case, the main thing is that he wants to have a common driveway to lots 2 and 3 instead of individual driveways, which are going to result in a reduction in the area disturbance. But everything else, all the stormwater work, all the drainage work has been done. He's going to be looking to get New York City and Rich to agree to not have a wall on the west side of the driveway, the maintenance driveway going to the detention pond, because he graded it out and he doesn't need a wall. The guide rail is in the bond, and we are going to put the guide rail in. The rain gardens, I don't believe should be in the bond, but I think we left them in the bond because they're on the individual lots, and we're bonding common facilities and practices. So we're looking to get the regrant, and then we want an extension. We want the board to agree with Rich and me that the bond should be 100,000. And then he's going to post the bond so he can file the plat. And so he can build on the individual lots. We can't, until the plat is filed, he can't submit to the health department for the approval of the individual lots.
Jack, when do you see if the paperwork is passed through, when do you see the building taking place? 2021?
With what's going on now, he wants to get started on one of the lots like tomorrow. So, I mean, if you guys approve this, I would think that he's going to start in September. I mean, he's been tinkering around with this, as you can see, for a lot of years because the market wasn't so good and he needed some financing. He did a good job on the road. Rich, I gave you information that showed that the driveway entrance was satisfactory. It meets the code, and the original plan did not have the level of detail on the topography at the entrance, but I gave you more detail, and I think it meets the intent of the code and the approval.
Jack, there's a difference between meeting the code and meeting the plan. And that's what we were saying. We're not arguing with you, but it was not the same as what was on the initial plan that was submitted. Now, Mike Simone gave you a letter saying it was okay, and he has no problem with it, but it is different, and that's what the point was. The board needs to approve the changes. That's all that we were trying to say.
If you want to put that in the approval resolution, that's fine. I mean, this is just a normal thing that builders do in town of Carmel, is they, rather than posting the bond, they do the majority of the grunt work, and then they post a bond for the remaining amount. Just took them longer than it should have.
Respectfully saying that, Jack, that might have been happened while you were town engineer. This is the first and only time it's happened so far in the 7 years I've been in the seat. So.
Whoa, yeah. Well, there might not have been subdivisions like this.
I'm just saying, it's the first and only time I've seen it happen so far. It doesn't mean it won't happen again. There's a provision in the code.
It happened before me, and it happened during me.
So, Pat, can I
blame that on you? I'm just saying it's the only time it happened here. So,
hey, Pat, I'd like to get some clarity here for myself. I'm trying to read this now because I didn't have time today when it came in late. And in one sense, I don't like to take anything on the agenda that comes in today because we don't have time to prepare. There's on the table is a motion to grant reapprovals of a final subdivision and to grant an extension of final subdivision approval. But now we're having talks about the bond.
Right. What's changing? Yeah. So as Jack and Rich were indicating, the plan is changing. So in order to sync what has been built and what is intended to be built with the plan that was previously approved, there has to be an amendment. That's the approval that you need to grant.
So there's no bond on this project now, right? But we're asking them for a $106,000 bond because the guardrails and the grass creek and the gardens and
the balance of the work was actually built. That's right.
So,
and the balance of that work was actually constructed.
Okay, so we're asking for a bond, and then we're also asking for a grant reapproval and then a grant extension.
That's correct. Three different items.
Okay.
Craig, just to
The
clear
bond
it up,
would be- Sorry, Mike.
the code says to build the subdivision. And it says in lieu of building the subdivision, you can bond it. Just so you know, they actually did it the way the code intends initially. What everybody else does is generally bond it. Okay, so they tried to do it the first way, building it, get it all done to get their final map stamped so they could sell the lots off. At that point, they're still however many thousands out. So they said, you know what, we're going to try to bond it now. Just to clear it up, they want to bond what's left to do so they can sell some lots off and finish off all the work.
Okay.
Well, I thought what you were going to do was approve the original bond with the re-grant, do a bond reduction, and then to do a bond reduction to the 106,000.
On the regrant.
Right.
It's
I
just
know
a
we
matter of-
talked around that, Jack, because then you would have to post the original bond and then ask for the bond reduction, and we were trying to work with everybody on that, not to have that happen.
Well, that's fine. I mean, that's what we don't want to post the original bond amount.
And Joe, am I right with that? I might be wrong. I could be.
That's what we discussed.
That's what we talked about.
Right.
Absolutely.
This is the problem with getting paperwork in the day of the meeting.
Well, that paperwork was submitted a while ago. It wasn't just submitted today.
Jack, we got your memos yesterday, and I had to write my memo and got it to the board today.
Well,
I got it late yesterday, so.
That memo was submitted, I'm not going to argue that. Anyway.
Any comments from any of the planning board members? So we need 3 motions, Pat?
I think, Joe, we do these individually.
Yes.
Yeah.
So do we have a motion to grant reapproval of the final subdivision?
Before we do that, Mr. Chairman, I do have a question. What deliverables are on the applicant right now before we start approving them? A revised plan?
Correct.
So before we do anything, shouldn't we see this revised plan so that we know what we'll be granting approvals to or extensions to?
Jack, do you have them to share?
Well, we have, I submitted the revised plans.
No, share on the screen right now.
Yeah, how do I do that? Let's see, screen share. And this is. That's the, oh, wow, that was, that's the original plan. You can see lot 3 and lot 2.
You haven't shared it with us.
We haven't seen anything.
Yeah, click the share button.
Jack.
What?
You got to share.
The green button down at the bottom of your screen, Jack, share screen.
I did that. Clicked on share screen.
And then you got to go click on what you want to
You got to
share.
select the document that you want to share.
You see it now?
Nope.
You see it now?
No.
It should come up on your screen as well. Share screen, then
It's on my screen.
click on the document.
That's why we had a trial last week. So you were on the
I told
back
you why I
line.
couldn't go. Yeah, but, oh, maybe click this?
Nope.
Nope. No, I mean, there's a green thing on the bottom of the screen that says share screen.
And then you have to touch the document that you want to share.
Clicked on share screen and then clicked on the document, and it's on my screen. Well, maybe it's click on this. Maybe share there.
There you go.
Now, now we got your whole computer.
There we go.
This is the original plan with the separate driveways to each house. And this area in here is all rock, very deep and hard rock. Okay, that's what was approved. Let's go to this one, which is a common driveway to both lots.
Okay.
That's the only change. And these plans, you have these plans. We submitted these plans. I delivered two sets of those to Rich the other day, but that's the only change in the whole subdivision.
Is that driveway, that common driveway? Okay.
Yes.
Then I guess we can address each motion individually.
Yeah, we need, the first motion, Anthony, is to grant reapproval of the final subdivision.
Okay, I'll make a motion to grant a reapproval of the final subdivision.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So roll call, Anthony,
For the motion.
Bob,
For the motion.
Kim,
For the motion.
I also am for the motion.
Okay.
The next motion is to grant the extension of the final subdivision approval.
That's right.
Would someone want to take that?
I'll make a motion to grant the extension.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Roll call.
Roll call, Kim,
For it.
Anthony,
For the motion.
Bob,
For the motion.
I also am for the motion. The last is for a recommended bond return for $106,000.
Reduction.
Reduction.
Amended bond amount.
I'll make a motion for the amended bond amount to be reduced to $106,000.
Second,
Is that correct?
That's
Yes.
right.
Bob, did you second that?
I thought somebody got it first, but I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Roll call, Kim,
I'm for.
Anthony,
For the motion.
Bob,
For the motion.
I also am for the motion.
Woo.
Jack, you can stop sharing your screen.
You never know what comes up.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you very much.
Stay safe.
And Mr. Adler, thanks you. Yeah, you
Take care
guys
now.
be safe too, man.
There were minutes distributed for February 26th. It goes back some time. Has anyone had a chance to review them? And do we have a motion to accept the minutes as distributed for September 26th?
I dutifully read the minutes and I make a motion to accept them.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Roll call, Anthony,
Sorry.
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
I also am in favor of.
How
Thank
have you
you.
reviewed the
Thank
minutes
you,
in the
everybody.
past,
This was-
Bob?
I'm
Right.
sorry?
How have you reviewed the minutes in the past, Bob? If it's only now dutifully?
Hey, Dominic,
because-
I want to thank you for running the meeting today. You did a great job. Thank you for your prep work and thank everybody. And
Good job.
Anthony, you can now join your wife for your 30th wedding anniversary.
you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Then I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay. Hope you're not in
Quickly.
trouble.
I'll second that motion.
All right,
Thank
get
you.
going, Anthony.
Okay.
Bye,
Have a
everybody.
good
Right,
night,
stand-
everyone. Good seeing you
Stand
all.
by,
So we'll
everybody.
stay on. Please stay on.